Welcome, your
There we
favorite
go.
gecko podcast in the world.
There we go. Perfect. Oh man. So we got a returning guest. No, he always has the open invitation to the podcast, Mr. Wally Kern. How
The
you doing
man, the
today, Wally?
myth, the
The
legend.
legend.
Thank you for having me back. Somebody greeted me at the latest Reptile show that we did, and they came up to the table. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting you, and I've watched you for years and years, and can I get your autograph? And that's not me at all. That is not. That's so not me. It's we're all part of the. I'm like you guys. We're all part of the same hobby. We're all doing good. We're all doing bad. We're making mistakes. We're learning. That's me. So we're all one kind of group. So I don't think of
Yeah,
myself at all like that.
so, but from other people's point of view, you got to understand. I mean, you do the work, man. It's well deserved. I tell you all the time, buddy. It's
Oh, especially
imagine these
with
little
the
kids that grow up watching you. They get their first
yeah.
gecko and learn everything about him from your podcast, and then they start breeding geckos, and then they run into you at a show. Like, you kind of are a legend. It's you've been doing this for
Yeah.
a long time, especially social media and everything like that. You're a real pioneer.
I'm
Yeah, that
I'm
longevity.
actually the OG. I'm the old guy. So when you say that I've been doing this for a long time, I've been at this now. I just realized I had a friend, AJ Davidson, that does a lot of crusted geckos. Great guy. And I remember him coming to our table at Sewerfest in Racine, Wisconsin when he was maybe 15. And he said recently, oh, I've been in this hobby. I've been keeping crested geckos for over 20 years. And it's like, gosh, I'm way past that. I do feel old because there's a little kid when he came to our table.
Oh man,
It's
that
cool.
time flies. And you're
Yes.
still in this
Yeah,
hobby, so
does
that
it?
was make it great because you were still here doing this stuff. That shows people that there is longevity in this. You can keep on going and going and going. You don't have to give this thing up, no matter where you are in life.
Absolutely
I tell you,
not.
if anybody can hang in there, it's me with all the mistakes that I've made. And Anthony, you commented on this before. I love sharing mistakes that we make here at Supreme Gecko, that I make here at Supreme Gecko, and Annette doesn't make any mistakes. But
Do women
the,
ever?
the never ever, she never makes a mistake. When we got married, she made that mistake. But um, I'm the one that makes the mistakes, and I try to remember them so I can share as much as possible. And I don't like to make myself look foolish, obviously, but it's just that case, and you know where I'm going with this. It's the case of if I made the mistake, you're eventually going to make the mistake. And if you can remember when you do something like this, to not do it like Wally did, 10 years ago, then it's a win.
Absolutely, agree with
Yeah,
you 100%.
well,
If our
people
mistakes
can
can
learn from.
help someone, prevent
Yeah,
someone from
exactly.
making the same mistake, then it was all worth it. As painful as it possibly was for us, keeping someone else from going down the same road is actually rewarding.
Yes,
Yeah, definitely.
absolutely.
So, so how has your started your season been for you already, Wally?
Oh my gosh. We're here in Wisconsin, so we've had a weird winter. I turned everything down last year. All the temperatures way down. I've pulled out a lot of males, my banded geckos, my Australians. Everything went. All the males went into separate containers. Again, the heat went down, the lights went down, and it's been a long 3 months. The geckos have icicles on their noses because it's Wisconsin. Um, so this last week, Monday, actually, I turned, and I'll gradually go down in 3 or 4 waves. Turn the lights in, an hour both ways, a little bit down. Turn the heat down a few degrees. Turn the heat down a few, and go through that cycle until they're actually brood mating. And then I literally stop feeding, and I only water. And it's a scary thing to not feed for 3 months. 3 months. Every other day
That
you're
is
going in to put mealworms in
that's
every other
so
day, and
much
then all of a
anxiety.
sudden you're not putting food in. Oh my gosh, they're all going to die. Well, we went through a huge brumation this year because 2024, we just had terrible luck with our bandids, and our Australians didn't really kick in. We had a few, eggs and a few babies, enough to keep us going with the bandids. but a lot of the geckos just didn't. A lot of specific types of geckos didn't go. So I'm hoping this year that brumation really does the deal for them and they get going. So it's been a busy week here with shows and we're now on Palm Street and then taking everything in and getting the hides ready and getting the incubation boxes and everything set up. And I like to have everything ready before the breeding season and the egg laying kicks in. I like to have everything set, so it's almost a no thought kind of process. I go to my big supply box and I pull out boxes when they're ready to when I find eggs, and it's all in one place. And I just like to have everything ready. So it's been a really, really busy week here, writing numbers down and names down and putting them in spreadsheets and trying to guesstimate, how many eggs I'm going to have from certain animals. And I think that's the fun part. For me, that's the fun part.
Just out of curiosity, how many eggs do you think you get in a season between all species? How many eggs do you think you're dealing with collectively?
Let me count. There's 28 and then 1 million eggs.
I'm just curious because I'm like, wow,
I have no idea. I have no idea. So 50 crested gecko pairings, 20 gargoyles, and I don't even know. I can't even count how many other.
You're probably over 1,000 eggs in a season, though, right? You probably incubate over 1,000 eggs.
From my picta alone, I get over 1,000. Now I say that in joke. But now that I think of it, I bet you I get 500 eggs just from the Periodora picta.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I've got to do the math. I might be overstating that, but maybe not.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's a job.
At any one time in the middle of summer, we'll have
half.
What's that?
That's a full-time and a half job right there.
But
just with the pictures.
But it's fun. Again, how it is. You go down and every single day is a blessing. You go down and you see new life that you've helped create in some little way. It's always a blessing. For the Periodora picta, I've got to tell this real quick. For the Periodora picta, I have those big bead boxes. And I'll fill them up with the Periodora picta eggs, 2 per slot, 18, 20, 24 slots. I don't even know. And I'll have up to 10, 12, 16 trays stacked up of Periodora picta at any one time during the summer.
Wow.
Does that sound crazy?
It does, considering I go my whole season with 2 boxes, 2 little fishing lure boxes. That's all I do, 24 grids. So 24, about maybe 60 eggs a season. No, probably close to 100, probably 100 eggs altogether, which is a lot for me. Then you got to feed all those mouths and house them all. And then you're changing 100 extra bins, 100 extra water dishes. It's, that's why I was really curious. What got me thinking about the whole thing was like, damn, I'm sitting in a different position than I normally sit in. I'm looking at my egg box out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, damn, it's already filling up. But wow, okay, I'm going to put out 2. Wow, I don't have a quarter of what Wally has. How the hell does Wally do it? Boom, I had to ask.
A little bit of it is, we have a shorter season here, obviously. Turning everything on, at the start of March. I'm not going to see eggs until March, April, May. I'm not going to see eggs until May.
Oh, really?
I'll see some, here and there, but I'm not really going to be kicking in until, I'm sorry, did I say March? I meant May. Nothing until May. Really.
Is that just because you live in the area you live in, or is that just how you decide to do it?
A little bit of both. I'm very fortunate, in that we can turn off everything here in Wisconsin in the basement. We have everything in the basement, and the basement cools down really, really well. So, all of my males are in little 6-quart tubs or 12-quart tubs, and they're on the ground, all under all of the racks. And so a couple of times a week I'll go on, hands and knees, crawling all over the. Well, no, I don't do that. I can't. I would never get up anymore. I go through and I water all of the males. And really, we don't feed that much. Crested geckos, the babies, and Periodora picta, we've got babies. We'll feed them, but mostly the adults we're going through and watering. So I like that. It's hard. It's boring. Come on, spring. But it makes it a little bit easier. But also, I like the timing. We can shut down around the end of Thanksgiving-ish, early December, and that gives us a good 3 months, of waiting time. And also about that time, I'm doing the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, so it's easier for me to just kind of shut things down and focus on that. And then I've got the January and February to kind of work on worksheets and spreadsheets and plan everything out and do the office work. And now everything kicks in, and now I'm down in the facility 10 hours a day.
Nice.
Do you have windows down there, like little basement windows?
I do. Great question. I do in part of the room. So we're in a 2,400 square foot house, 2 stories,
Nice.
and the whole basement. I stole the whole basement from the net. So I'm running 2 very distinct rooms. One is a crested gecko room where I have all the crested geckos, the gargoyles growing out. But I have one big central unit, enclosure unit, for 16 enclosures, I think, in that unit right in the middle. But everything else is pretty much crested geckos and gargoyles and isopods. That room has 2 windows. The other rooms don't. The other rooms don't have any windows whatsoever. It's all dependent on the light cycle.
So that's what I was getting at. It could be a blessing. I mean, when you're controlling those circadian rhythms, it's better. I mean, when you want to cool something and may not be the exact season, it's a lot of these animals, I feel, produce and stop producing due to light cycles, not as much temperatures. It's a light cycle thing.
Oh, yeah.
And Anthony, I think that's and nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about what kicks these animals in. What are they depending on? For crested geckos, we all know it's just the proximity of a male to a female. It doesn't matter if it's 32 degrees or 100
Absolutely. Mine lay all year round.
All year.
Oh, nope,
but
not
other
mine.
and Peridor picked it the same way. But other animals, Urodactyloides, we don't know everything. Is it the light cycle? Is it the humidity? Is it the moisture? Is it the availability of more food? Is it wind direction? Is it more wind? Is it more rain? They need more rain in the morning than at night. I don't know. We're kind of guessing at this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. So how's Palm Street been treating you? I caught one of them already.
Palm Street is kicking our butts.
Really?
But in a good way.
Okay.
So I'm the type that will get into something like this and really stress a lot. I want it to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. And that's just the way I am. It has to go smoothly, or else we won't look professional. And I just way stress about that. Well, we had a good guy that we just had on Thursday night, Tyler, that does the frogs, the tree frogs, and he actually walked us all the way through a practice run for about, we said, just if you could just help us for 10 or 15, and he was there for an hour and a half helping us with getting it started. Wow. Our first live, we had all the animals ready to go, and I think we had 50 animals. I think we sold all but 4 or 5.
Yeah, I was there. You did good. I watched. It was an awesome. I knew you would do good. I knew this was something that if you got into, you would really, really succeed, thrive, and enjoy. It just from my point of view, like knowing you, watching you, and then watching Palm Street, I knew it was something that it would be a good combination.
Well, thank you very, very much. I kind of feel like we have the reptile shows down. We have our place, whether it's good or bad. We have our place. Yeah. We know what to do. I think we have our niche down as far as what crested geckos, what rear geckos, what isopods. It just works for us. We're very comfortable with we can pack up, we can come home, we can unpack. It's not, we're not sleepwalking through this whole thing, certainly, but there's not a lot of planning that's going into it. Palm Street was a lot of planning and a lot of stressing and a lot of, well, how do you do this? Our rep from Palm Street was amazing. And I tried not to go too much to her for questions, but I would hey, I've got a question about shipping.
Veronica.
Veronica, yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
it's very, very cool. Very nice.
Right back to us with answers, and it eased my mind. So we started the first live, and it didn't work at all like the practice run. So like within 10 seconds, my stress level went from 0 to 268. But within like 2 minutes, we had everything going, and then it was more of a routine and in and out. I think with Palm Street, I think that everybody has to find their identity on Palm Street. I really do. Is your identity that you're just auctioning off animals? Here's another animal. Here's another animal. Is your identity maybe like Tyler, where you're interacting a lot with the people that's in there? Is it like we're doing right now? Is it more chat and, oh yeah, by the way, here's another animal that I want to put up? So I think everybody has to kind of figure that out for themselves and run with it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then change up.
Yeah, I was just catching Nate's his Palm Street before we did this. I think he does a great job in there because he, like I said, he does that balance of talking to all the guests in there and auctioning, and then doing the whole selling part to it. So he does a really great job with that stuff. I mean, he's a great conversation person. So it really helps that he can do that. For me, man, I don't know. It's gonna be like, here's a gecko. Here's the gecko, because I don't want to talk. I don't want my face in front of there at all. But eventually, it's going to have to happen. So
it is. I think we were on at the beginning. I think I had my face on at the very beginning and talked for maybe a minute or so, and then we got right into the auction. I told Nanette before we started, I don't want to keep people here. I don't want people to wait and wait and wait. I wanted it to kind of fly by. And after we got our rhythm, after 5 or 10 minutes, we really started pushing the animals pretty quick, and I felt good about that. But I also felt like I was kind of ignoring the customers, and I felt like I should have been interacting more. But I'm used to this computer and the monitor that I'm looking at, which is huge, and I can type and I can answer and I can interact better. And now I've got to go to this little phone and, oh my gosh, and I'm trying to do the geckos and trying to read. It was bad. I felt completely out of my element.
And Palm Street doesn't have a website, right? Or
you can't do it through. They do have a website, but I don't know. I think they're working on this. I think they're working toward making this better, where you show your animals, and you can also broadcast to your computer as well. I think that's the aspect that they're working on, if I'm not mistaken.
So you had to use your phone? Like you had to use the phone? You couldn't?
I am not a phone person whatsoever.
That's pretty complicated. That's why Nate's always, because I've watched a few people a few times just to show support. And a couple of them I couldn't tell, to be completely honest, that they weren't computers. Yeah. But Nate, I can tell he's using his cell phone. So I was like, oh, that's cool that they give you the option. It's easy to show your face. You can type. You can show the animal. Like, I figured it was just like an option. I didn't know you had to use the phone. Okay. All right.
The people that have done it solo, I've commented, you're amazing. You're amazing doing this by yourself. Because what you're doing is you're actually taking a picture of the animal, then you're entering it into your phone as an inventory item, and then you're going back to another screen, and then you're starting the auction. You're watching the auction, talking, chat. But then once it's done, then you're preparing your animal, and then you're taking another picture, place it on the auction, and also you're showing the animal and making sure that your crested gecko, doesn't jump into the next room. It stays on camera for most of the time.
Yeah.
That was a struggling point for us initially.
Yeah, it is. Do you fire when you like some people I watch, they'll take these precautions or measures to fire their animals up for the auctions? Do you do anything special to get your animals fired up? Like, do you use warm water in deli cups, or do you just show them as they are?
I think it's important for anybody to show off their animals the best they possibly can. And now there's certain, things that, if you're preparing your animals for a show, for a reptile show, in-person reptile show, You absolutely should be doing, but there's some things that you don't have any control over. Our last reptile show, I'm just going to, I'll answer your question, but I'm going to proceed with this first. We came to the show and we were at the front table and the doors, 20 feet, 30 feet away, 35 feet away from us were wide open. And it was less than 30 degrees. And the wind, I could just feel the wind coming in. I thought, this is not good for the animals. So we had to literally wait until about 10 or 15 minutes before the show started. And I get there 2 hours before the show starts, so we have time to prepare. So we got everything in place. And then 10 minutes, let's go. And we just started placing animals on the table because it was so cold. I didn't want them to, in my mind, fire way, way down, or worst case, develop, catch this cold air and not do well that way. So I really wanted to make sure they were okay. So having said that, there's things that you can do at a reptile show to do that. But also you have to have clean cups. Boy, nothing bothers me more than to walk up to a table and see 30 animals and 6 of them have poop in their cups. If you're not attending to that, I think you really should be. And I'm going to be very blunt.
For sure.
That just shows, and I know everybody's busy. But I'll go, if I see one, and I'm talking to somebody and corner of my eye, I see a piece of poop. Here we are talking poop. If I see something dirty in a cup, I'll grab the cup and I'll put it behind the table. I'm going to get to that and I'm going to clean it later, but it's more important not having that animal on the table than to have an animal that's not clean, in my mind.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So things you can do at a reptile show to make sure that your animals are prepared as best as you can. So for a reptile show, I'll get up, an hour earlier than, the drive and the prep and being ready, and I'll clean and water the cups, because we catch them the day before, and then the day of, I'll get up and clean the paper towels, replace the paper towels, and put the water in, whereas the previous day I'll put them in dry. So that's a little thing that I do, and we put them in black containers to keep them very dark. For the reptile show, for the Palm Street, I kind of tried to do the same thing. Our downstairs bathroom stays a little bit warmer, so I put them in a black container, put them on a paper towel, warmer water, and put them in the bathroom a couple of hours before the show, and then pulled them out. And then we did there's 50 animals. We'll pull 2 out that have pottied, and we'll try to clean that as quick as possible. And showtime, and once it's showtime, it is what it is, and they're going up.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So I try to
setting up for a show though, huh? Palm Street. But you're having to pack up the animals, categorize them, catalog them. I mean, it kind of really is a virtual show, in a sense. I mean, from what I can see, what you guys have to go through to put these things on, it's very much so a show. You can have your store with your dry goods and your other animals. I see people, that have their store on the Palm Street app stacked with stuff, inventory, stickers, keychains, dry goods. I mean, it's a full-blown show table, but virtually, really, which I think is brilliant. I really do. I think it's a brilliant invention, or whatever you call it. It's super cool. It's very, very cool.
I think it's a game changer.
Buyers and sellers. Yes,
I think it's a game changer. I really do. So I made the decision. We did our very first Palm Street on a couple of Fridays ago. And then last Sunday we had a reptile show. And reptile shows take a lot out of us. It's a long day and everything. And Saturday, we usually spend about 4 hours prepping and labeling and collecting and everything. So Saturday's 4 hours, and then it's all day Sunday. Let's say it's a Sunday show. It's all day Sunday. So, after our Palm Street on that Friday, now we've got a week until the show. About Tuesday, I looked at Nanette and said, let's do a Palm Street after the reptile show. Wait, what?
Yeah.
And she said, you want to go another 3 to 4 hours? And I said, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think that it's pretty much coming home, taking the animals. If they need to be cleaned, we'll put them aside. And all the other animals that we don't sell, we'll selectively pull 20 or 30 animals, and we'll do the Palm Street. And the reason that we would do that is because we don't have to deli cup them up. They're already deli cupped. They should be already fired up. They should be ready to go. And we did that, and it wasn't too bad. Would I do it again? I think absolutely. I think that
I know that's what
there's
Nate
a
does.
cost. You're absolutely, at the end of the day, you're done. You're absolutely done. And the other cost for us was that we had Palm Street did a free shipping February, which was incredible. So when we did that second show, Palm Street show, we also had to combine orders from the first show and a lot of worksheet manipulation and refunding shipping costs and stuff like that. But it really wasn't too bad. So I think we would do it again in the future.
Yeah, it's killing two birds with one stone. Why not? You went through all the headache and trouble or time. I don't even want to say any of that, but you put in the work to get everything ready for the show. It's the same procedures that you would do to get them ready for a Palm Street. It's already done. Why not? Why not make the sales? You're not. And I mean, yes, this brings you joy and fun, but you're not doing this for fun. This is a business. It's how you put food on the table. It's a way to make money. It's a smart move. It's a power move.
Wait, did you say you could make money on this? Is that what you?
So I hear. So I hear.
I'm still in the negative on that one. So.
I think that it's hard unless you're doing a big scale like Wally. Not that other people can't, but I think you got to be producing hundreds and hundreds of animals, living that life, going to shows, traveling the country, constantly doing Palm Streets. I mean, to be in the green, or else it's
well, it's not even that too.
For ourselves.
You got other products that you sell as well, which helps with that. So it's not just gecko sales that you only have for a certain amount of time. You have stuff that you can sell year round. So that definitely helps you out a lot.
I do consultations. I have people that contact me and say, how do I do a reptile show? And one of the very first thing I'll say is be professional, be clean. It doesn't mean that you have to have professional banners and professional tablecloths, but just be clean and be professional and greet people like you would greet them as your friend, not your best friend, but your friend. And just be polite and smile and show your passion. The number two thing, business related, number one thing is diversify and have other stuff. If your crested geckos don't sell, you better have something else. If you did 3 shows in a row and your crested geckos, just sold off the table. And then you come to the 4th show and you have 3 other crested gecko breeders right around your table and you sell 2. Shame on you for not thinking forward enough to be able to diversify and say, what if my crested geckos don't sell? If you're into isopods, well, bring leaves, bring bark, bring food or something to sell along with that to keep people at your table and talking to you and sharing experience and sharing your passion. So diversify, big thing.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we are here to talk about some good old rough-scaled geckos, Pachydaculus rugosus. Is that how you say it?
I say rugosus, but
rugosus.
I was listening to your podcast with I can't stop saying it, Bavaye. I've said Bavaye for years and years, and I can't think of his name now. Gosh darn it! Said it. Nate said it. How did Nate say it? Bavaye.
I can't pronounce it that way, so Bavaye.
And I'm sure
like it's French or something, which makes sense because when he said it, I'm like, it sounds French. And he was like, oh, it was a French biologist that found it. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Well, and that's a good point from a Latin standpoint. If that's the pronunciation of the person that it was named after, then that name has to stay there. And so we're all pronouncing it wrong. But it's like, it's like the people that don't adjust to the Kahua and stick with the Chihuahua. I'm kidding with you, Anthony.
Listen,
shots fired.
I can't do it.
In my mind, it does. If you say Kahua and I say Chihuahua, if we're talking about the same thing, who the heck cares? If we're talking about the same animal, let's move past the semantics.
All right.
Absolutely. Hey, my buddy Trevor is an English teacher. My buddy Trevor's an English teacher, and he doesn't know anything about reptiles or geckos or anything, right? So I wrote a name down. I wrote Chihuahua down on paper, and I said, what does this say? And he said, Chihuahua. He said, Chihuahua, what's that? I said, nothing more, thank you.
So rugosus whatever. I've pronounced it rugosus forever, but I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's now the thing that we do have to worry about is then, the genus and species. So the Pachydatylus, and so, if you're getting something wrong, you better not get the genus wrong. You better be pretty, square on the genus and the whole. And people will ask me all the time, do you have any, any animal? Do you have any barking geckos? Barking. Oh yeah, I know what the barking geckos. That's Nephurus melii. Do you have any rough, thick-toed geckos? Well, what? Well, that's the rugosus. Oh, well, why didn't you say rugosus? So there's where the collision occurs, because a lot of people right now, a lot of new collectors, I think, are going by the common names. I think that's kind of it's a little bit dangerous with some animals.
It is.
Viper geckos, you know what a viper gecko is, but a white striped gecko, a skunk gecko. There's probably
velvet gecko.
Velvet gecko, yes, exactly. So ultimately fall back to the scientific name. I started keeping. I'm gonna start all over. I was going to talk about rugosus. I'm not going to talk about rugosus right away. I'm going to talk about Pachydatylus. I'm going to go back like 15 years ago, 16, 17 years ago. And I wanted to get into something other than crested geckos and leopard geckos. And at that time I had started keeping gargoyles, and I had already kept, chameleons for a long, long time. And I wanted to keep something different. And I used to go down to the NARBC Tinley Park show and meet up with a couple of guys that I would, talk to on the forums, and I'd see pictures of their animals. And a lot of the animals that I was seeing were these little teeny tiny, 4-inch, 4.5-inch. There you go. These little teeny tiny Pachydatylus. So what is a Pachydatylus? So I would talk their ear off. It's all on the forums, but I wanted to talk in person and find out exactly what these animals were. So at the time, I think that there's 50 or 60 species of Pachydatylus, named species. And at the time, there were probably 20, 25 in the hobby of Pachydatylus. People were keeping Pachydatylus. And it was really cool because you could probably find, if you saw something online, you could probably find somebody keeping it in the hobby. The unfortunate thing is, in the last 10 years or so, we've dropped down to probably, 8 or 9 species of Pachydatylus. We've lost so many. It's so unfortunate.
What are you, like, out of the hobby?
They're out of the hobby. They're gone.
We'll no longer being imported type of stuff?
Never see these animals probably again, ever.
See, people...
It's hard. And I'll say that I find myself, and this is just the way I am, I'll find myself guilty of that because I didn't keep some of the animals and keep them going, because I thought, well, everybody has these, so why should I specialize in this? I want to specialize in this and this and this. So you can see some of the Pachydatylus here. The cool thing about Pachydatylus is they're small. You can keep them in like a 10 to 15 gallon at the very most. They have all kinds of different behaviors. Right there, that one on the right, that's probably my favorite Pachydatylus. I think I keep maybe 5 or 6 different species. That's Pachydatylus bicolor. There's another one that you had a little bit further down called McLaughlini. That's absolutely my favorite. There, right there, McLaughlini.
Yeah. Really?
That black is velvety black, and all the scales are just so defined. And the head and the tail, take it from me, I'm the worst gecko photographer in the world. And for them to even look halfway decent is saying how unbelievable they are in person. So the cool thing is that their babies are always so cool, but there are some that have these very specialized behaviors, like this Pachydatylus rangi that dig down. See their feet? They're called web-footed geckos. I don't know if you can see the feet, but the little web. They'll, they get settled in. You get a pair, you get a group of them, bring them in, and make sure that they're okay. And after a couple of days, all that they do is dig, 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 dig. And then they'll stop and they'll look around, dig, 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 dig. and the sand is just flying. It's so cool. It's like a badger trying to dig out a hole.
Where are they from?
These are all Southern African geckos, South Africa geckos. Not South. I shouldn't say South African. Southern Africa.
All
Namibia.
Pachydaculus.
What's that?
All Pachydaculus?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the range eye are absolutely one of the coolest ones out there. Here's another interesting fact about them is that they glow in the dark. So if you take a blue light, if you take a blue light on them, they'll just glow, just absolutely glow.
Jay, are these the ones Richie had? Richie was showing under the black light?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that. I've seen it a lot of times, a lot of other hobbyists. This is pretty common. If you're into the Pachydaculus, probably the one that you're going to have is range eye.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do have an episode coming out with the rangy eye.
Nice. Very nice. It is a cool gecko.
Overfield.
Yeah. Are these considered micro geckos, Wally?
Oh, man. So the tough part is I get that asked all the time. So if you keep Leachianus or the Kahua, I'm going to say that for the rest of the show. If you keep Kahua or Leachies or something big like that, these are absolutely micro geckos. Now, if you're already keeping something like the electric blues or the Clemeri, Phelsuma Clemeri that are only about 3.5 inches, 4 inches, I don't consider these micro geckos. I consider something like Tropiocalatus that are only about 1.5 inches long. That's a micro. Some of the Spirodactylus, some of the Gonatoides, some that are only about 2 inches long or so. I consider those micros, but in the general sense of things, these could be considered micros.
I really like these, the Rogussos. What is this one called? The one we're looking at, the knobby tail. I really like that gecko.
The Rugosus?
Rugosus, yeah, I like that little guy.
Rugosus, this is kind of cool about them. So we can see the Pachydaculus scutatus on the right. That's a typical Pachydaculus. I'm going to tell you a real quick story. So I keep Pachydaculus aureophilus, and I got a pair from Joe Hupp, and he goes, Wally, you're going to like these. It's almost like a drug dealer. Oh, this is good stuff here, man. So Joe knows how to turn my he knows how to turn my cranks. He goes, Wally, this is a good one. You're going to like these Pachydaculus aureophilus. Joe, it looks like a lump. It looks like it's gray. They're just gray. But you're going to like the babies. Okay, Joe, I'll buy them. And the cool thing about aureophilus is they are absolutely the grayest animal you'll ever want to see because they bask on top of rocks in Africa. So they have to be gray to blend in, right? But once they lay their eggs in the little crevices and the babies hatch out, well, they're in the shadows. So the babies are just like this McLaughlini, their bodies are black, jet black, and their collars around their shoulder collars is just pure white, and their tails around their back legs. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said tails, but their hind quarters are pure white. So it's like a tuxedo, like an Oreo. So the first one that I ever hatched out, it was like, Joe, you were right. That is the one. And they are real. And I'm surprised I don't have a picture here, but the Oreo.
I was looking for it. I'm like, where's it at? Where's it at? I know what they look like, but I was just trying to show them.
I'll have to check the webpage to see if that. And this is in my collection on the Supreme Geckos site if you want to see these. But the Aureophilus are cool, but the parents look just like nothing. They're just great. So if I'm selling Aureophilus at a show, I'll take adults and I'll sell the pair of adults, but I'll also take babies. I'll say, this right here, this cup over here is why you want to buy this cup, these adults. The Rugosus, on the other hand, the babies look just like the adults, and they have that dark brown coloration, high contrasting browns. And when they hatch out, they're almost little mimics of their adults, which is kind of interesting with the whole Pachydaculus. Most of the Pachydaculus are ugly gray adults and pretty cool little babies. But these are cool right out of the eggs.
What's the there's a name for that? Like when a gecko hatches one way, but throughout its life it changes to a different color. Do either of you guys know the name of that? Like there's a name, there's a
I call it super cool.
It is, but there's like an actual scientific name for animals that are born one way but grow out to be another. You know, like green iguanas look the same pretty much throughout their whole lives. Chihuahuas, crested geckos, for argument's sake, really look the same. They don't go through this whatever change, you know, to
color
adulthood.
phases.
Yeah, there's a name for it. I was curious what it is.
Yeah, rugoses are the same right out of the egg, and they're just the cutest little babies, just little miniatures of their parents.
Now, being they're all from the same area, what do you think? How drastically does the care differ from one species to the next?
So, in my mind, I'm trying to go through right now all the care for the ones that I've had, and the one that's so different, obviously, is the rangy eye. Okay. They're because you have to set them up differently because of the sand requirements, and they have to dig, and you have to give them the ability to make burrows and tunnels and stuff like that. So a little bit, you know, all these other ones from a cure standpoint for the adults, I would out of five being the hardest and one being the easiest. All the parents are maybe 1.5. Range eye, I'd give maybe a 3 to 3.5 ish because of that sand. Yeah, okay. the adults. Yeah, all the babies you keep exactly the same. Okay. Exactly, and all the babies. I've never had a baby Pachydaculus that has been difficult. Once they hatch, you know, they're pretty easy to take care of. Yeah. So adults, the care is super easy. If you want me to go into that real quick.
Yeah. Well, before you do that, Heather, Heather did say it's called ontogenic or
that's it. Yes. That's exactly what it is. Though.
I will
something
put it up here.
There you go.
That's what I was talking about. Yes.
Color change.
Way to go,
Heather. Word that I can't even pronounce.
They're born one way, but throughout their lives, they change to a different way. And it's usually, like you said, to adapt to an environment that they're in, they have to look a specific way for their protection, if you will. And then as they get older...
I'm going to see a little screen with Heather coming on. That would be called, or... Good job, Heather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Said, so they come from the southern part of Africa. So what does that environment look like?
Hot.
So
and again,
can get an idea of how to do a tank for
them. Little diversities, but not much. And again, you know, I'm going to tell my story, but listen to other Pachydaculus keepers as well, and also know your species. Again, rangy eye is a little bit different, so you know, really focus on rangy eye if that's what you're going to get into. All the others, rugosus, all the ones that I've kept are pretty much hot, sand, rocks, water, food dish. Did I mention hot? Hot.
Extra hot? Extra crispy?
Extra crispy. So the back of my tanks all have about 95 degrees. Maybe that could even be up to a little bit, but it's comfortable for me. That's what I want to keep them at. And they have probably about a 20. I use heat strips, heat tape. So, you know, they've got that last 20% over the heat. But also, here's something really cool that I do is, and I don't know if it's smart or not, but it's just something I've always done, is I'll make if this is the tank, this is the heat part right here, but there's a hide that runs the length of the heat and then some more into the tank. So they can go without coming out and without going from hide to hide. They don't have to do that. They can stay in their own hide and go from the hot side to the cool side without being exposed. And, you know, I feel like they still feel comfortable making that transition from the warm to the cooler side. Ambient temperature, I keep them at, you know, 75, whatever the room is, 75-ish, 76-ish, something like that. Um, so you can set up. Let me talk substrate first. Substrate. I keep about half of an inch or so of substrate throughout the whole enclosure, and I'll use a calcium less non-calcium sand. So we're talking about a Repta sand, I believe, and keep it a half of an inch through the whole enclosure, except in one spot. And I like to kind of keep that spot kind of on the edge of the hot and the cool side. I'll try to keep, it right, a little bubble of it about the size of, I don't know, about the size of a baseball ish. And I'll mount it up there, and I'll keep that under one of the hides, and I'll mount it up to be about 2 inches or so, about the size of a baseball. Why do I do that? And I think you guys probably know this already. I don't want to search the whole tank. I'm lazy. I don't have time. I don't want to go through the whole tank scraping the sand. Where are those eggs? Where are those eggs? They've got to be here somewhere. So I can literally lift up my hide, put it over on the other side, and all the animals scatter all over the place. And then I'll come over to my baseball-sized mound of sand, and I'll just gently go through. Up there are the eggs, and I've got my little bottle cap. So I've got my bottle cap there ready to, let's go, let's find some eggs, and scrape. I'm combing through the little mound of sand, and I grab the eggs. I already have my Supreme Hatch, my high-fired clay material in there so that the eggs don't roll when I put them in there. So I'll have it ready, and I pick up the eggs and I put them in there, and then I put it right into a hatch box and right into the incubator with the name and the date. So that's why I have that little mound of sand. So it makes it a lot easier for me to search through and find them.
Interesting. And if you would think, way I'm thinking, envisioning their environment, seems like it would be drier than most geckos where they would lay their eggs. Like if you're in the middle of a desert per se, sand from here to there, and where's the water coming from? Where are these things? Are they just digging down until the sand temperature changes to a little bit cooler? I mean, but where would the moisture be coming from? Who's to say there's any type of
I think
guess
I can talk on the range eye. I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get down because if you look at Oreophilus or rugosus or one of the other long, skinny Pachydaculus, they're not rough skin. Rugosus would be about the roughest of all the Pachydaculus I know. They're certainly not rough skin like a Nephurus, wheeleri. Where Nephurus wheeleri are out there all the time. Well, they're not outside all the time. They're not sitting baking in the sun, but they come out and they're rough skin, so they can handle that a little bit better. The Pachydaculus, a lot of the ones that I keep, are not a tough skin, but they're very, very viable. The range eye are a soft-skinned animal, so that's probably why they're getting down into the burrows to find that hydration and to stay moist during their lives, to be out in the sun and actually be down, cooling down, and also to be absorbing some of that moisture. I think from a egg laying standpoint, all of the Pachydaculus that I have always looked for an area in the sand that's a little deeper to dig down a little bit and hide their eggs there. And I think that the reason there is probably a little bit cooler. It's not here. I think this is the most important point. Temperature wise, is it cooler? Is it hotter? Maybe it doesn't matter. The deeper down that they go, the less of a variation they're going to have. Those eggs are going to be exposed to. Deeper down they go, the less it's going to fluctuate back and forth with probably moisture and heat as well.
Absolutely. But they don't necessarily need moisture.
Kind of, sort of. They obviously need drinking water. So we have a water dish. We'll have, I brought some toys to play with. So we'll have a little tiny water dish, for these guys. I don't know if you think that's tiny or not. I don't know if you can see that with my fat fingers there. But what we'll do is we'll take that and we'll kind of put it on top of this. We'll put it on top of the sand. We'll kind of crush it down a little bit. So we put it on the. I'll do it the right way here. We put it on the sand and we kind of crush it down a little bit. So it's not quite, at sand level. It's raised
But
up
it's
a
enough for
little
them to
bit there.
get
If you can
over
see
and
that,
get a
and
drink
then
if
they
they
can
need
they
it.
can get in there and drink. I like these little teeny tiny saucers too. They're not the real deep saucers. Just love these things.
I use the same the other ones you have, the ramekin things.
Yeah,
I
yes,
got
yes,
them in
yes.
2 ounce, 2 ounce, 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce, and all the way up to the 3 ounce I use for some of my breeders. But I think
Great
they're
minds,
awesome. Think they're
great
awesome.
minds think alike. Jason, you got to go get you a case of these.
Hard to knock over for the
I
price of
bought
them. It's
I bought a
insane.
bunch of what is it? Because I
Jay
work in
should
food
have them in
service.
food service. Jay should have them. I just bought these other things.
And there you go. There you go.
Yeah, $20. I got 1,000 of them.
What are they, Jay? Let me see.
Just these.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got these
Yeah.
from you, Wally, off of Temu. I went on to Temu and I saw these things for $1.53 for now 5 of them. These little ceramic bowls with the lips in them for $1.53 for 2 of them. It's real ceramic, like they're real. It's not plastic. It's not nothing, and they're bigger than I thought they were going to be. $1.53 for 2 of them. If you were to buy these from Petco or anywhere else, you're going to pay $10 a pop for one of them.
Yep.
I tell you what, man, and I don't know if it's because I feel like sometimes I'm being cheap. I think it's more that I'm frugal. It's more that I just don't want to spend, $10-15 for hides or anything.
I
I
mean,
want to show you this
100
real quick
animals.
here.
What sense does it make?
As breeders, we got to be more efficient with our money, our spending.
Well,
So
if
we
you're
gotta
going to
figure
have
out
10
other ways.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to have 10 or 20 or 750 enclosures, you've got to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I love these little hides. Just absolutely love them, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, well, I don't even know how anymore. Couple bucks, $3-4 ish. So I used to use. I'm going to show you this real quick. I used to use this
I love
lot.
those too.
Yeah, these are really super cool. You put the water in and it leaches down, but then it doesn't leach out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got little terracotta pots, but they're painted on the bottoms here so it doesn't leach into the sand. Works out really good, but they're expensive. I think I paid maybe $6 or $8 for those 3D hides. There you go. I'm even cheaper than that. This is how cheap I am. I used to go out and buy the terracotta, and I would spend, like 20 minutes with a screwdriver and a hammer and chip, 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 and try to get
Frank's
that.
selling you out right now. Wally.
Well, then I went
read that
out
real quick.
I'm getting sand all over the place because I just took this out of one of the adult. Sand's dripping all over the place here, folks.
Oh.
So, these are like, 28 cents a piece, and you get them and you cut it with a tin snips, and it's a done deal. Sand all over.
Frank says you hide in a snake.
Awesome.
What's that?
I said Frank says you're hiding a snake.
Stop it, Frank. The net's getting.
How else is Wally going to save up for a secret snake stash he keeps hidden from the net?
I know nothing. I'll admit nothing.
I'm in the same boat. My wife would have me and all my geckos on the street if I even mentioned snake.
Mine too. So for these Pachydaculus as well, for hides, what I like to do is, the egg flats, I don't know even know how big they are. Yeah, I'll take those and I'll break them up into half, and then I'll put that again. Here's the important part. Some of it is on the hot side, and some of it is on the cool side. A piece of slate, another half. A piece of slate, another half. So the cool thing about that is they can gradiate to whatever temperature they want. They can gradiate themselves to being on the sand or not being on the sand. If you raise up a bunch of them and you have maybe 2 males in the enclosure, they can get away and hide from each other in one of these layers. So if I'm, growing some out and I'm moving and cleaning and I see one by itself in one of the little little compartments in the egg crate, I know that's probably a male, and he probably is trying to hide from the dominant male. So I'll take him out of the enclosure.
Okay.
Other than that, for enclosures, I talked about the sand. Most of them can be kept in 10s or 15s. I talked about the hides, water dish, a food dish, mealworm cups, invaluable.
Oh yeah.
Mealworm cups. These tops come off. The tops slide right back in. The mealworms can't get out. So we'll keep the small dubias. We use a lot of baby dubias for Pachydaculus. We'll use micro mealworms, even crickets. If I'm feeding crickets, I'll dump the dusted crickets right in here, and they'll spin and spin and never get out. Well, they'll eventually get out.
Yeah. So, do you ever notice any kind of like because you already said the rangy eye, they do a lot of digging and sand flicking. So does the Rugosus do the same thing? Do they
Not at all?
No? Oh man.
Not at all.
Oh, maybe I could make a nice little crazy enclosure where they can kind of make their own little tunnels or something. That'd have been dope. But yeah,
that would be cool.
Okay.
However, what rangy eye can't do that Rugosus can do, and this is super cool. And if you've ever seen a Rugosus, you know what I'm going to tell you here. So when they hunt or when they're mating, when they're trying to attract, the opposite sex, when they're hunting crickets or mealworms, their tails will come up and they'll do the scorpion with their tails, and it will wag all the way around. And that, in my mind, is the coolest thing in the world to see that tail. And I have a couple of other geckos like Pachydaculus androyensis and Pachydaculus vizimba that will do kind of the similar thing. But these
range Periodora?
Yeah, Periodora, vizimba, Periodora, androyensis. But these, not range eye, but the Rugosus will wave their big fat tails to try to, attract the insect or mesmerize or whatever. And it's pretty cool.
Nice. So how long does it take for these eggs to hatch?
About 60 days. Normal.
Oh, that's quick.
It really is. It's not too bad at all.
So it's instant gratification geckos.
Yes, it really is. And they're pretty consistent layers. We'll get quite a few more Oreophilus than we will Rugosus. Rugosus are kind of like the Chewies compared to our Oreophilus.
Sure, it's not cooies. Sorry, they're cooies.
I missed my opportunity.
Hey, I can't let this keep going without me acknowledging that I caught it. Earlier when you were talking about stacking up the egg crates and the slates, you had mentioned a male could get away from another. Is this meaning that you were keeping multiple males together? What do these groups look like? Or are you talking about babies?
Anthony's calling me out.
No.
And that's cool. I love that. Because it gives me a chance to explain, and that's what you do. I'll grow a group up. So
okay.
We'll have, and the funny thing is, so like, I'm going to use Oreophilus as an example, but Rugosus, if I had more than a couple of pair, it would be the same thing. What we'll do is we'll hatch a certain number out a month, and we'll put them all in a little. I just happen to have a little 6-quart tub.
There you go.
And I don't know if you can kind of get the dimensions here, but it's nice and long. So we'll put the egg crates in here and a little soda pop, bottle cap in there. Bottle cap in there for food and one for water. And that's all they get, a couple of hides, and they're good to go. And we'll raise them up for a couple, 3 months in there, and then we'll move them into like a 10-gallon and raise them up even further.
How big are they when they hatch?
And eventually they're going to sex out, and I'll have, if I have more than one male, eventually one of the other subdominant males will start venturing away from the colony. All the females are there and the male is there, and I don't check, I don't care. Oh, that one's by himself under the far side of this egg carton, 1 or 2 layers up in egg cartons. Something's up there. So it's real easy to go in, take that one male out, and put it into another enclosure.
So they're not a species that you would suggest someone keeping multiple males together. Like if you had a colony, you couldn't, you don't, like, I guess some, I don't know which ones, but I know there's other small geckos that they do fine. You know, you can have 3 males, 4 females, and they just seemingly get along. But I guess certain ones won't, not I guess, but obviously certain geckos, you know, aren't that as accepting of, you know, a second male.
I think when I initially started, excuse me, when I initially started, I did have a problem with keeping males together. Lost a male, and from that point on, I've always separated. I don't know if that was an odd occurrence, a one-time shot. Not like viper geckos. You can raise viper geckos and have, you know, multiple males in a colony, and you actually will have better success with multiple males than having a male with multiple females. Way better success. But for the Pachydaculus, we separate them out. And I think the Oreophilus might even be a little bit more accepting than the Rugosus. If you know Rugosus, you know, one of their characteristics are their little hog noses of the gecko world. They'll put the front up and they'll fire up just like aspers or amii, the first amii.
That's what they remind me of.
Right? And they'll hunch over and they'll give you the business. And if you go by them, you know, I'm gonna poke you. They'll do the wow, wow. And they'll you know, neck jerk and do the hog nose thing, bump your finger. That's and everything.
Cool. That makes me want them even more.
They're, from a behavior standpoint, unlike, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Pachydaculus rangii, that's the one that I want to get. And then you get them and it's like, oh, they just burrowed and they're gone and I don't ever see them anymore. Rugosus, and if you like rangii, that's super cool. They are a cool animal, but Rugosus are always, they're not always out, but they're always feisty and they're always, you know, you feed them and the tail and cool animal.
And they vocalize, like they're marking all the boxes to be a good pet. That's cool.
Frank had the exact sound that they make. Rawr.
Oh, man. So how fast are they? Are they pretty fast for being a small gecko?
They're not bad. The other longer,
because I heard like rangii are lightning.
They're like, yeah, they're, well, I didn't think rangii were too bad. I mean, they'll go from one, you know, point to another, but they don't like transport. Like they're not going to be they're gone. Oreophilus are kind of like that. If you know kind of what they're going to do, you can kind of control them a little bit. But that animal is fast. Rugosus will go from point A to point B pretty quick, but they're just going to go, I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to stop. And I'm going to assume that you don't see me anymore. Oreophilus are going to go, I want to go to the other room right now. I'm going to run all the way to the other room. Good luck stopping me. So completely different animal. Rangii are, I feel like rangii are very similar to Rugosus, and they're going to get away from you, and then they're just going to stop and not run anymore.
Being kind of arid terrestrial animals, how would you compare these guys to keeping a leopard gecko, for example?
Ooh, no, leopard geckos are I think the second easiest animal to care for. Okay. So what makes Rugosus more difficult? You know, I can't get away from the fact that I have a female right now that probably had a little bit too much calcium last fall. I probably was giving a little bit too much calcium, and like leopard geckos that will get, you know, the bags under their arms, and they'll show that they've absorbed too much calcium or too much vitamins. They'll show that this female Rugosus that I have has the marbles on the side of her head. Not terrible, but they're out there a little bit. So I'm going to, you know, back off from the supplementation, obviously. Okay. But care, really not so much. Tight enclosures, tight enclosures, and that's about it.
Can these guys climb glass? Can they climb up glass?
I say they can't, and somebody caught me once and corrected me, and it was just so
Really?
perfect how they did it. I was
The
talking
glue in
about
the corner.
what's that?
Climbing the glue up the corners.
Yes, exactly. I said, and I think I did it in one of my videos. Viper geckos don't climb glass, so you don't have to worry about a top. And somebody came by back and said, "Wally, they're going to climb the silicone." I said, "No, they're not going to do. They're not going." And sure enough, like within a couple of weeks, I'm looking at, and I didn't have tops in my enclosures, and the animals stayed in there. Maybe they couldn't make it around that lip because they were small, but sure enough, at the top, and I'm looking, that's poop. That's gecko poop right at the top of that silicone. So Anthony, you were on it right away.
But they're not going to be something that climbs up the glass like a New Caledonian gecko or anything.
Not at all. Not at all. Nope. Rock climbers, yes. Glass, no.
Okay.
So, did you? So one. How old or how long do you wait before you actually pair your geckos up? Like,
Yeah.
generally,
Good
how?
question.
When is their? When do they mature?
Yeah. I probably wait longer than most people, or at least I wait past when I feel comfortable. Oreophilus, I'm pairing up at a year. Then I keep going back to Oreophilus because that kind of is the same animal as Scutatus and all these other real long, skinny. Rangy, I might wait a little bit longer. Rugosus, I absolutely wait a year, at least a year and a half. I generally wait a couple of years before I pair up the male to the female, simply because they're just really not in the hobby that much. And I'd rather be a little bit, and Anthony, I know that you're the same way. I'd rather be a little bit safe than sorry. I'd rather wait a little bit longer maybe than I think that I should, but I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I mean,
are they laying duds at that age?
No, I don't introduce. No, they don't. The females won't lay at all until I've never had a female lay dud eggs until I've never had a female lay eggs until I introduced a male, and I've never had dud eggs.
People to look at me like I'm crazy when I tell people that. Like they'll have certain animals and they're like, "Oh, my female, I don't want to pair but she's 3 and she's not laying." And I'm like, "Yo, listen, some geckos, and I've had it happen to me
pheromones out
personally,
there.
they will not lay any eggs for you until there's a male around. They can be 3 years old. With no male around, she's not gonna lay eggs for you. I promise you. Introduce a male. Put a male within her range and let her start. Put a male in her airway, in her airspace, and just see what happens. And sure enough, man, I asked and talked to a few people, and I got another friend that did the same thing with Chihuahua. He had a Chihuahua that was 2-3 years old, never laid duds. Introduced a male. 6 months he's had eggs on the ground.
No, like just like people, they're all different. So they all cycle different.
For sure.
I had like my first pair of Chihuahuas, she never laid duds for me. Then my second pair of Chihuahuas, she laid duds at 9 months, 12 months, and 18 months. So
for sure.
They're all different.
They're
you
all
can't
different.
go off this one way of thinking.
No,
You gotta wait until this. It's like, you know what?
That's
sometimes it's just not gonna happen.
That's a fact. The thing that, at least in the new Cal community, is hard because everybody like gauges everything off of these duds, right? Like you gotta wait this long, you gotta wait for duds, you can't do this until you see duds. It's like you're not always gonna. I've had crested geckos that were well over 2 years old that did not lay any duds. I promise you. Same with the Chihuahuas, 3 years old, going on 4 years old, no duds. They're not gonna just lay them. You can't use just weight. You can't go by just age, and you definitely can't just gauge it off of a gecko laying duds. I've had animals on the other side that have been way too small, way too young, that lay eggs religiously. Doesn't mean I'm going to pair them. I mean, could they in theory? Yeah. And then there's the argument: what's the difference between an unfertilized egg and a fertile egg, and the body still producing it? Blah 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 blah. I get it, but it's not right all the way around. I mean, I can't make them stop laying eggs early, and I mean they're going to, but I probably don't have a male as small enough as they are to do. It's just there's so much more, like Jason was saying, when it comes to breeding animals than any one facet. You can't just say they're this old. You can't say they laid duds. You can't say that they're, this weight. You have to take all of these points into consideration and really use your best judgment all the way around, including the money you've spent, your relationship with the animals. You can't I could go on in a whole podcast about it.
But there's a couple of things working there. We all keep our animals different, and I've said a couple of times, in my opinion, how I do it in our facility. And I say this all the time in my videos, find 3 people. And it doesn't mean that this person's right and these 2 are wrong. And it doesn't mean that they all disagree, so they're all wrong. Because I read it on a Facebook group, on a Crested Gecko Facebook group, all 3 of those experts are wrong. What that means is, I feel what you should do is, the more you advance in this hobby and keep different animals and get more exposure to more difficult animals, find 3 people, have them explain out what they're doing. How often do you supplement? Well, I supplement, but then in the back of your mind, oh, Joe's in St. Louis, so he's kind of and Jason's in flipping Arizona. My God, hell, fire is raining down every day.
That's what I always say.
So, and Wally's up here in Wisconsin, where they get 3 days a year above 50 degrees. So
you live in the Arctic.
I do live in the Arctic. I live in the frozen tundras of Lambeau
there you go.
Field. So kind of balance all that stuff. But then, more importantly, go back to nature. Anthony, you made the comment about duds and females being ready. Literally, in all the books that I've read about crested geckos, nature waits until they're 44 grams, a female's 44, before a male is introduced to a female. All the books that I've read says that. There is no breeding before 44 grams. So I'm being facetious, obviously. In nature, they flipping know. So, but there's So I get this all the time. How big should a male crested gecko be before they breed? A male knows it's a male. It knows. It knows. So unless you're breeding a 20-gram male to a 60-gram female, that's danger. Danger, Will Robinson. But a male knows it's a male. Does it have to be 34 or 36? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as the size. So that's my opinion. But go back to, flawless crested geckos and altitude and ask them what they do too. And then use your best judgment and compare it to nature.
For sure.
Okay, I preached enough. I'm off my soapbox.
You're 100% right, though. We do have to have, I understand, right? I don't want to be like the asshole that says nobody knows what they're talking about and it's a bunch of, hoopla. I guess what people are trying, I'd like to believe that what people are doing when they say the weight thing is just giving a basic standard, right? Like when you're coming into the hobby and you're new and you may just, have gotten your first pair of crested geckos or whatever geckos, they're kind of just like setting a base, a fail-proof, foolproof base for someone to just learn and grow off of. But you have to grow. You have to understand that, like you were saying, that no 2 situations are exactly the same. It's, but it's a good basis. I guess if you had 2 animals that were 50 grams a piece or whatever they say, 44 grams, whatever the hell it is, 44 grams, and
it keeps going up and up and up.
Something.
I remember back in the day, it was like, it was 30 grams, then 35, then 40, then 45. It just keeps going more and more and more.
Well, and not for nothing, but the animals are just fatter. Like, how many times I look at these animals, sometimes people are showing me their crested geckos, and I'm like, I'm not ever going to have a crested gecko that looks like that. Like, my animals are
gecko, sugar cone.
Athletic and they move a lot, and I make it a point that they climb a lot, and they use their tails, and they have to work for their food, as messed up as that sounds. I make them hunt. I don't, this is just me speaking, but you will never come into my vault here, my collection, and look at a crested gecko and be like, this thing couldn't get away from its shadow if it tried. Like, it's just not healthy for me. My animals I do bump up the calories during breeding season for my females. Unfortunately, males naturally shut down. I don't care if they're not housed with them. You can separate them all you want. They're within 15 feet of each other. The males smell the females. They're not eating the way they
Their mind
used
is
to. So
focused
they,
on one thing.
yes, and the females, like I said, I feel like they do actually eat a little more, so I feed them a little more, and I don't mind a couple extra grams on them when that time of year comes around. But I think that a lot of times people will just bump food into their animals to get to this weight, that makes them breeding proof, and that's like so retarded to me because it's a weight. You're talking about a number. It doesn't mean that the animal is biologically old enough to carry or give birth or give healthy birth or, reproduce. You're just talking about a number. And what is that number? I mean, I could stick a lead sinker in its mouth if I really wanted to and put it on a scale and say, oh, it's 70 grams. She's ready to breed. It's like, what? It's,
If you did that,
again,
then you'd be ready for a professional bass and walleye
who ain't
tournament.
lying? It's exactly where I got it from. It's
So
like,
I'm going to go back to your point, though. You mentioned as a general kind of information to give to most people, and that's exactly it. If you notice, Anthony, when you asked me that question about what age do you introduce your male to a female, I hesitated. It was hard. I struggled with that because in my mind, I'm kind of playing the okay, you do it, but do you do it the same that you would suggest to somebody? And why are you, if you're going to say 2 years, why are you saying 2 years? What's the reasoning? And in my mind, immediately it went to because these are flipping rare animals, and I don't want to mess something up. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to make sure safety over anything else, and I want to make sure that that female is ready for that male. But that's the way I do it. But from a general standpoint, I would feel safe saying that if you're going to work with rugosus, you might want to wait until 2 years. Does Bill or Todd or Susan or Joe or Richie or whomever that works with these, do they wait 2 years? Maybe not. Is that wrong? No. If they feel comfortable and if they've had success, not at all. That's not wrong at all.
No, I get it. I wish people out here in the world wouldn't look at everything so literal, I guess. Like, again, life is very much three-dimensional. It's not always black and white or as flat and two-dimensional as some people wish that it was. It's always evolving, forever changing. I mean, one's collection is. I mean, I've had animals, not to talk about my collection again, but have animals that have been great to breed one season, and I've looked at them the following season and said, I'm going to hold off on her just because I don't like a combination of things, right? Like there's a combination of things where I'm not comfortable with. I don't like how she's eating. I don't like, she's either too fat or too light, or, I'm just going to hold off on her because collectively the whole situation isn't right, but you have to be a observant person to notice those things. You have to pay attention to your animals. I tell people all the time to read as many books as you want. Your animals are going to tell you everything you need to know. Your animals will.
You talked about females. You said repeatedly, I'm going to watch her. I'm going to do. And I find myself watching, at the end of the season, especially, I'm watching my males. And it goes back to exactly what you said. The male, when they're in season, they're thinking about like one thing and one thing only. Funny, I'm going to tell this funny story. I used to do reptile shows down in Illinois with another bigger crested gecko person, and we would argue constantly about theories. We would be in each other's face, just ripping each other. But we always did it after the show, and it was always in the parking lot, and it was literally after we didn't want anybody to walk through and say, oh, so that's what a reptile should. We waited until we had time ourselves, and then we would just rip you flipping idiot. You don't know. You've only been doing it. And point being that at the end, we would always, so have a good week, Billy. You have a good time. Sounds good, Wally. You too. We ended it in such a good way, but it was such a constructive criticism, hard, fighting for the point being is that, he used to say, you don't want to separate your crested geckos because of the females. You want everybody at that time, again, 15, 20 years ago, separate your male and female at the end of the season so that the females can recover. And we weren't arguing this point, but this point came up. And he said that that's not why you want to separate your animals. You don't want to separate your males and females because females in the wild, they're around all the time. You want to separate because your males will look, paper thin at the end of the season because that's all that they're doing. They're breeding. Separate your males and females because of that, unless you have a significant cool down where your room cools down so much like ours does, so that I don't have to separate. But he said, watch your males at the end of the season because if they're thin, then you want to separate them and you want to get them back. And that season I watched, and sure enough, he was flipping right smack dab on. All of my males were paper thin. And because I had my males in with, one or two or three females, and they were just like, man, thank you, but I am just beat. I am tired. So it's interesting that you just kind of, getting back to your point, you have to watch your animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Observation is one of the best things you can do.
Yes, absolutely.
So I know you're just talking about cool down, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier. So for them, do you cool everything down at the same time? Like
yes.
all your geckos at the same time? And generally, how long is that? It's like 3 months, you said?
3 months. I have to because I virtually have two different rooms. I have kind of my crusted room, but I have another room where I have my leopards and some crusteds. But my crusted room is where all of my babies and juveniles and just a handful of breeders are. And my breeder gargoyles are in that room too. So my other room, I can kind of control a little bit better, but literally, in the fall when I'm ready to cool down, and I see Nanette walking over to the thermostat, like, oh, I'm kind of cold. Put a blanket on. Don't touch that thermostat. I want it iced downstairs. I want to call it, stop messing with that thermostat. So, I want the room to downstairs, the whole room to be cold. So, we're up here with blankets and parkas and ski boots, and no, it's not that bad.
Man, I wish I could. Good Lord. Like this year, this cool down, I didn't get to like cool down not correctly, but just not as long as I wanted to. That's what I would like to say. Because usually I open up every window in my place and let all that cold air come in. It gets like probably in the 50s, during the nighttime inside my place. So I was like, all right, we're gonna have a nice cool down, but couldn't do it since I just moved in with my girlfriend. So now I gotta be thoughtful of them as well. So told her, I was like, once we get our own place, buy a place, because we're looking for a place like a detached house, or there's some places in Arizona that do have basements, but I'm looking for like that detached guest house so I can go ahead and play with all my temperatures and not have to worry about anybody else, so I can get my proper cool downs, especially with like a lot of the stuff that I am getting, because I'm getting a lot of the Aussie leaf tails and stuff like that need that like 40 degree. I might have to put you outside at night cool down. So definitely I wish I could do that, and say just put a blanket on.
I don't cool anything.
Nice.
I don't cool anything.
Nothing at all.
Well, my whole theory is that I live in New England, right? Seasons change. Now, yes, I keep the heat around, the 70s in my house, 72 to 75, but it's naturally cooler, if that makes any sense. The sun is the sun is up shorter. The ambient temperature in general is cooler. At nighttime, the temps still drop down to about 69. I mean, and then in the summertime, we're it's 80s and 90s. I mean, I personally feel that it's, maybe not a hard cool, but the wintertime in general, living in New England, it's colder for 3-4 months out of the year regardless. I don't go out of my way to keep this room super, super crazy hot, but it's cooler than it would be in the summertime, if that makes any sense, So I don't feel the need to go out of my way to make it any cooler than it naturally does seasonally. I just
Oh, I mean,
kind of
it's still
let.
natural cooling because you're
Yeah,
all you're doing
that's
is
what I'm
opening up the
saying.
Right.
windows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I
that's
don't.
I
I
mean
just don't do anything
that's
extra.
that's what I do. I open up all the windows and let all that cool air come in instead of keeping whatever regular stagnant air that's inside your house. No, not getting any of that fresh coolness in.
Yeah,
I
my
mean,
shit
and
would
especially
die
with
if
like
I
my
did that.
yeah, I mean
My
my
shit would
Australian
die.
stuff needs a hard cool, so
Yeah.
I have to do it because otherwise they're not going to breed because they're not going to feel they're not going to have
I
those
get it.
triggers.
I've seen guys take their animals and put them in boxes and literally put them in the refrigerator. Like I
Yeah,
just,
yeah. I think I saw Armin do it with those alligator lizards. I was like, damn, I don't know if I could do
probably
that one,
him. I've
but
seen a few people do. I've seen people do it
yeah,
with hognose snakes. Literally seen
yeah.
people take their
I
animals
see
and
him
put them in the
do.
refrigerator.
Yep.
That's
I'm not.
crazy.
I'm not putting any of my animals in the refrigerator.
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, you could do it with rosy boas because, or I think it's. I don't know if it's rosy boas or it's a boa. It's in the North
Got to be
America.
a North America. I was gonna say, got to be a
It
North
is.
American
It's a
boa.
North American boa, and they see him outside in the snow just going through, just like, all right, cool, we chilling, really
Crazy.
chilling. But man,
So crazy.
yeah, I mean, even
Interesting.
still, cooling down still gives me anxiety just because like how cold and like and then you're not I still feed mine, but they still get daytime temps. I still have a heat light on. So but this year I'm going to try for this next upcoming breeding season. I'm going to try to not feed, not have any heat. And I'm gonna go straight up like how Landon was saying, like
Mhm.
no, only gonna do a few hours of light and that's it. You ain't gonna eat for 3 months. And we're gonna see what happens. No, but like I said, in Arizona, it doesn't get crazy cold like that where I can if that will work where they're gonna be fully shut down. So, but we're gonna play with some stuff and see what happens.
You can do things, you can do things to change that up a little bit, a few degrees here, a few degrees there. You
Yeah,
could
yeah.
put fans on, you could put animals down below.
Yeah.
I wanted a situation different. And Anthony, in years past, I allowed the natural cool down,
Mhm.
turn off the heat tapes, let everything kind of, we have, one room where I do have a heater in and it jacks up the temperature just a few degrees for leopard geckos and the Australians and the Picta as well. And those rooms I naturally, cool down by turning everything off the heater, and it would drop, 5, 6, 7 degrees. This year, again for the bandeds and for some other geckos, I put them in boxes. I put water dishes, and I watered them every, a couple of times a week, and they were on the floor in the dark under racks, by themselves. So we're going to try this because I had such a not so good year in
Yeah.
2024 from a breeding. So I thought I've got to do something different. And it was widespread. It wasn't this animal or that animal. It was groups of animals. So I think it was time for me to try something different. But,
I get it. I'm
yeah,
all
Jason,
for it. You know.
it's hard. Jason, you were talking about feeding, not feeding, and I shut down, their food supply back in November. And that's when you're doing it
Yeah.
every other day religiously for 20 years to not feed
Yeah.
something for 3 months it's heart wrenching kind of,
Yeah.
and sure enough, I go to every single tank, every single time I water, and the animals look just as healthy and slow, but just as healthy as anything.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I
so
know this
amazing,
year.
man. It really is. As much anxiety as it brings all of us, it's evolutionarily, biologically amazing, right? That these
Yes.
animals, these reptiles that are like notoriously known for living and thriving off of heat and everything around them, to be able to tolerate such cold weather, not even just tolerate it, but thrive and function, and it just really is like amazing. I mean, these animals are incredible. We were talking to Landon, and he was telling us about some of these temperatures and stuff that these animals that you think come from the outback of Australia and 120 degrees. I mean, and these things are not even just they quite literally need 30-degree weather, 40-degree weather to
Yeah.
reproduce and thrive. It's you know, I guess we're just so I'm at least just my whole life been so like programmed to believe that cold and reptiles don't go in the same sentence. It's just something that it's not supposed to be. But
I would be interested in Dan's statement. How cold is cold? You know,
Yeah,
for
I
your
just asked him
athlete.
that. I
Oh,
just
okay,
asked
okay.
him. Yeah, I was waiting to see if he was gonna say.
How
But yeah,
cold is
like
cold for what?
he just
He-
cool. So his room gets to 20 Celsius. So I gotta figure out what that is in. Hold on.
60 degrees.
It's
Probably.
Sunday. I can't math.
68. Yeah, 68
That's
degrees.
that's not that cold.
Yeah.
In
That's
my
about as
mind,
cold
it's
as
not.
mine gets. Yeah, that's about as
Yeah.
cold as mine gets, around 68, 69.
Yeah. Like I said, like back in my apartment, I let my place get to like in the low 60s.
Yeah.
You know, but like I said, once I get these Australian leaf tails, it's gonna be I'm gonna have to get them. Like Amnicola have been known to hunt in the 40 degrees. So I gotta, yeah, exactly. Like it's like, all right, how the hell am I gonna cool these things down if they're still trying to eat in a 40-degree weather?
And
And I was
40
like,
degrees is not pleasant. Like, it was 40
no, it's
degrees
not.
outside here today. I was out at the beach with my dog, and it was like, I was like, I'm ready for inside now. Like, I'm all set. Put me inside. Like, 40 degrees is not cool.
Jason, when
Yeah,
you get those expensive leaf tails, just send them up to Wisconsin, and I'll keep them up here. I might
yeah.
I might
Oh,
have a
I'm
problem sending
sending.
them back.
I'm I'm sending some to Landon already.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he got a whole room dedicated to like all that coldness. So it's like, yo, here, take these. Because right now, like my room, the like where I'm at, I can't really make like a whole bunch of different environments that can like suit all those things. So it's like, yo, here, you take those, hold on to those until we move into this place, and then I'll go ahead and I'll get those back from you after they when we split clutches and stuff. But yeah, what was I about to say? I
My
totally lost my
room's
train of thought on that.
74.5 degrees and 67% humidity right now.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
what this
today it's
room
75. It was 75 degrees today. I know a few
Mhm.
days ago it was like 40-some degrees, but it was also raining too the whole entire day. So yeah, that shit was miserable.
We're sitting at 56 degrees right now. That's
Are you
That's a warm
serious?
day for you.
Yeah. That's
Are you down there in a
that's way
t-shirt?
warm. What's that?
You're down there in a t-shirt?
Right? Well, I'm in my office, so it's past brumation. So at this point, all the heaters are turned off. I've got all the knobs. It's like I've taken all the knobs and just gone all the way to the top with all the knobs.
I'm like 100% Mediterranean, man. My family is all Italian and Greek, and I'm like literally off the Mediterranean. If it's below 75 degrees, I have a sweatshirt on. Like I can't take it. It could be 120 and I'm in heaven. I'm loving it.
Oh,
But
no.
anything cold,
I hate getting in the car when it's like that. It sucks.
man, listen. When I take a deep breath and feel hell in my lungs, I'm at
Nah,
home,
man.
man.
I'm sweating my ass off. Sorry,
I don't want to be like that guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end where his skin is melting. You open the car door and your skin just melts off your face.
I see. Now I used to have a car that had leather in it in Arizona. Oh my God, my kids would be like, "Dad, my legs are burning." So I was like, "Put the towel down before you sit down. Come on."
It's funny you said too. My last car, this Jeep that I bought, came from Arizona. I bought it from Arizona because I didn't want a New England snow damaged car.
Yeah.
So I had to go buy one from a non-snow zone. It was Arizona.
So for these, is there any good resources for these geckos?
There really isn't. And the funny thing
where
is,
did you learn your stuff from?
What's that?
I said, where did you learn all your education for these geckos from?
Asking the breeders.
There you go. That's
my gosh. If you don't keep the breeder in your system for asking questions, you're doing something wrong. There's just so I just got a message today from YouTube that I've been doing YouTube videos for 15 or 16 years or something like that. I thought
longevity.
No, thank you. It's
awesome.
my privilege and honor to provide information. But I had stopped for a few years there, and I picked it back up about 8 years ago, because I bought an animal that wasn't anywhere. It was 3 videos, 20 seconds each. Watch my Hemidactylus tridrus eat a cricket. 3 videos, 20 seconds each one. But this doesn't work. Somebody's got to search it. So when I got to the point where I got eggs and I got babies, I did a video and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. Any rear geckos. And I went to YouTube today and I thought, well, I'll just give give you guys the link so you can share that, so people can listen to me and maybe get something, retain something afterwards. But I don't have a video on Pachydathlus rugosus, so
So you gotta start working on that one.
Well, it's just I'm gonna go check out that first one, guys. Go check out Wally's page too if you haven't, and I'm sure you all have. If you haven't checked out Supreme Gecko's YouTube page, go check it out, man. I mean, it's quite literally one of the main things that set me and Jay's, at least me personally, off on this whole venture with the YouTube channel, man. Huge inspiration was Wally's channel. I mean, I've been watching it for 7-8 years myself, so it's like
before I even
super
had my
cool
first
stuff,
gecko,
man.
I was watching your channel, Wally.
Well, the only thing I have to say to that is that if you can't be a good example, be a terrible influence. So watching my videos and getting that bad, oh my gosh, don't do it like that. That's not what I want to do.
Hey, how popular? Sorry, how popular are these pachydathyls? I keep meaning to ask, but like, how big is there a community? Like, we have this New Cow community, Australian community. What's the community and breeders and hobby all together look like for pachydathyls?
Not good.
Okay.
So
why is that?
About 15 years ago, there was 2 or 3 guys that kind of, I'm going to use the word control, but that's the worst word. They greatly influenced the pachydathyls because they had animals, they were working with them, they had big collections, and attrition, and we lost a couple, and then one of them just completely disappeared because of financial and marriage and other stuff. And it for me, I had purchased, I don't even know how much from the fellow, and he just disappeared. And it was like, okay, where do I go now? And at the time, it's like, well, I've got this animal and this animal, and then 10 years later, I don't have hardly any of those animals. And then you get to the realization that they're gone. They're flipping gone out of the hobby. We'll never see bicolor. We'll probably never see scutatus. We'll never see some of these other animals. So when you talk about pockets, we don't have the pocket. When you talk about how many people have these, we don't have I guess people keeping them. We don't have the popularity of pachydathlus because basically the adults look like gray little geckos, like house geckos, like Mediterranean geckos. We just don't have that anymore. There's pockets. Mike Walsh, Richie, myself, and I am so sorry for not naming other names here that I can't think of, but you'll find pockets of people that keep rangi. You'll see some people that keep I'm trying to think of some other pachydathlus, and then you'll see somebody like me that has 2 or 3 or 4 species is trying to keep and distribute as much as possible. You have somebody like Mike Walsh that has so much knowledge and is sharing as much as he can, but here we go. We lose a Mike or we lose Richie from Pachydathlus. I don't want to keep Pachydathlus anymore. We might be done with people keeping Pachydathlus in the United States from this point on. It's that thin.
So when you go to a show, is it safe to say you're probably the only one at a show at any given time that has Pachydathlus on the table?
Unless it's like a Tinley, Okay. I'm trying to even, unless it's again rangi. Maybe Oreophilus, rugosus is, you see rugosus once in a while out there. Joe Hupp will have a rugosus. Okay. But Oreophilus or a couple of the other species that I have, you're not going to see anybody.
Those few species that you said are no longer in the hobby. Are they not importing them anymore? Why? I mean, were they like impossible to get or?
Well, it all comes down a couple of things. CITES, obviously. Controlling everything. I don't think these animals are under CITES. I think the problem is that when they collect, what do they get? They get these gray animals. Well, who's going to buy the gray animals? They come over here and people are going to go, oh, well, I can get this chameleon. I can get these chameleons for about the same price, and I can sell them because everybody knows what they are. So why bring in this other animal? I don't get it. And that's the unfortunate part because they're just not coming in from a business point of view. And I don't blame, anybody from not bringing them in.
Kind of stinks though, man. It's kind of, there has to be that allure, right? Like I hate to say it, but not every animal has that wow factor or something about it that makes it a desirable animal, you know? And like you said, if they're not a desirable animal, it doesn't make any sense for the catchers and trappers to catch these things and import them. It's just wasted time and they're not going to get anywhere. You know, it's interesting. I'd imagine, hopefully, I mean, maybe some museums have them, some zoos or something. Somebody's doing something with them.
Not that I'm aware of. And it becomes that much more rewarding, though, when
yeah.
I sell an Oreophilus to somebody and I say, this is what the babies are going to look like. Oh, that'll be cool. And then, a couple of years later, they send me a picture. Hey, got some babies, and this is the coolest thing I think I've ever done in the gecko time that I've been keeping geckos. And it's like, man, winner, in that it's now distributed maybe to one other person that has that passion that, some of us other Pachydaculus keepers are gaining and blessed with having.
How long do they hold on to those baby colors for? I've kept meaning to ask too. I keep forgetting.
Not long. Probably about, well, I should say probably. They'll hold on to them about 3 to 4 months ish. 3 months ish. Yeah. So, right?
I mean, you got to be a true gecko lover to appreciate these geckos, right? That's pretty much. I mean, and it's the same with me. I got a lot of brown geckos, and you gotta appreciate those geckos. Like how many people really dabble in Haemophilus and some of these Cerdodactylus that are just straight, just look like dirt, right? Is people want that wow factor, that colors, and that it's the same thing when you go to a restaurant, right? You eat with your eyes, so you're looking for stuff that looks good to you. Now, if that gecko looks cool to you, you're gonna go ahead and get it. If it's just a little brown gecko, you're gonna be like, what else does it do? But if you're like,
very true.
if you're that gecko nerd and you like history and all that other stuff, a lot of these things you do gravitate towards those things. And I mean, I know I gravitate towards almost every damn thing. So it's like trying to pick and choose, like, what do I want? What do I want? Like at this, like, I was telling Ant earlier today, I was like, dude, I'm getting out of Chihuahuas. You want some? So he's like, yep. It's like, all right, cool. Because I'm about to step up my Stropheus game like really hard.
There you go.
So I'll leave Chihuahuas to Ant. I'm going to knock out these Stropheus, and see what happens with that. And like I said, and then also like all the velvets. Like I have this fascination with every single velvet gecko. I don't know why, but I just do.
See, Kyle just got a whole rack of them, right?
A lot of people are. Well, you could thank Hassan for all those Fimbrias going out, because Hassan of the Knobtail started. Kyle got his from him. I saw a few other people started showing off all the Fimbrias. I was like, oh, now they're popping up everywhere. I'm like, okay,
everywhere.
So I need to talk to Hassan.
I can't remember his name. You just mentioned it. The fellow that posted the pictures of, is this or that?
Landon.
Velvet. What's that?
Landon and Wyatt.
Landon?
It was both of them, because they got they were thinking it's a Cincta.
Yeah, the person that they got them from lives here in Wisconsin, about 10 or 15 minutes south of me. Great guy, Dan Thomas. And
I know Dan. Yeah.
So we've talked over and over and over, and I have asked him. I'm going to call him a bad name here in a second. I have asked him over and over, Dan, when you get rid of these, I have no regrets at all. He did what he needed to. I wouldn't have probably taken them because I'm full up anyways. I probably would have taken a few.
They did a major Oreodora haul. It was ridiculous.
They did.
Man, so I was like, damn.
I knew all of those geckos that he had. And I was really trying to get a couple of the different species that he had. And he was always working with them, and he and his friend were working with them, and it just didn't work out. So, and that's cool. It's cool for him and it's cool for me. Dan's such a great guy. So all the geckos that are being posted, it's like, I know that one. I know that one.
Yeah. I didn't know they got them from Dan Thomas.
Do you buy a lot of geckos, Wally?
another story about 7 years ago. From like 9 years ago to 7 years ago, I worked a job that was overwhelming to me, and put a lot of my life into that, and it became kind of a struggle, and it just was too much. Funny thing is that I came home one night on a Friday, 8:30 ish at night, getting home, and I literally walked in, opened up my carrying case, and opened up my laptop, and started talking to some offshore development team. My son was sitting watching TV, and he knew that I was putting in 80, 90 hours a week on this job, and he looked at me and goes, you're effing crazy doing this. I said, no, this is professional, and this is what I have to do. He goes, no, you're effing idiot for doing it. And I didn't take offense to it. I knew what he meant, and he was a little older at that time, so he could use some words like that. But then after a while, it was like, yeah, I'm just not going anywhere here. So I retired. I literally walked in on a Monday morning and said, I'm done. I can't anymore. And at that point, I had gotten out of a lot of these species, and after I retired and made that decision, I'm going to go back. I love my job and everything. And then after about a month, it was like, I'm not going back. I'm done. And I literally said, okay, here we go. These are the 5 to 6 species I want. I have to have in my collection no matter what. And I went out within a month and got those. And after that, I've selectively have added the species that I really, really want. All goes back to something that Joe Hupp said in one of my interviews with him. He said, I said, what's the one animal that you really like? He goes, I don't know if I have one. I said, there's got to be one that if you could get it right now, you'd bring it in. No, there's none, because I have what I have, and I'd have to get rid of something in order to bring something in. I don't have unlimited resources.
I do remember
I
that.
said, well,
yeah.
You're doing a good job with your business. You could afford it. He goes, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, well, you just spend a little bit more time. He goes, that's not what I'm talking about either. I can't devote more attention to more animals than I have to devote right here, right now with these. So that stuck in my mind. So when I grow, I literally take that step back and go, really, can I do this and not sacrifice the time, to care for these other animals? So I'm really selective. So Tinley's coming up, and I'm getting one pair of animals that I've wanted for a long time, Bavaye, Robusta.
Really? Okay.
Nice. And that's probably all I'm going to get. I'm not going to get 6 crested geckos and some kahuas or anything like that. I'm going to get probably the Bavaye, and that's going to be it.
It's awesome. So last thing I think I remember seeing you get was the Coleonyx, right? Like you got a bunch of Coleonyx.
I'm trying to think if I've gotten anything since then. I don't think
right?
I have. And I think last year I think we probably bought 2 different times.
But once you get to so big, to a collection that big, and you're not like honing in on morphs with all these other rare geckos,
yes.
You got enough to work in house, right? You got enough to keep producing. You don't have to really buy anymore. It's cool. That's what I was curious. I'm like, when you get to that stage, I mean, do you really have to buy anything? I mean, and then technically you don't have to buy anything when you have trading power, right? You could trade super rare animals for whatever you really want. I mean,
and cool. You say that, and I said that I'm going to get one group of animals, the Bavaye, but I am trading another fellow because I do have a tank that has a lone helmeted gecko in it. It's a male, and males are kind of rare for helmeteds. And I'm trading a guy, the helmeted for a group of animals, and I'll probably do a video on that later. So
very cool,
nice.
So very cool.
That's one thing about our hobby I do love. Is
yes.
Being able to do all this a lot of the stuff I'm getting in next week are all trades. So because I'm getting like
nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 geckos, like 3 or 4 different species.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's all off of trades. Not one was bought.
That works out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Does.
I was like, kind of. That's what I'm kind of using the leverage of these chihuahuas for. Is hey, you want to trade? Here, take these, take this.
Nice.
I'll take that from you. Oh, so
When
we
when it
definitely.
can work out like that, that's perfect.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, don't all we gotta pay for is our shipping. That's it. You know, it makes it a whole lot easier than saying, "Hey, how much is that gecko? Man, do you take payment plans?" It's like, nope. It's like, how about a
Some of
trade?
the coolest animals I got are from trades, from breeding, and not for nothing, crested geckos that I make like clockwork. They're always good trading. I've gotten the Nephurus from trades. I've got leaf tails from trades. I got so much stuff from cave gecko. I got all types of stuff from trading crested geckos that I literally make like dirty laundry.
But you have to have nice animals to trade, though. And
For
Jason,
sure,
you're
for
talking about
sure, for
Chihuahuas.
sure, for
Anthony, your
sure,
crested geckos are beautiful. So
for sure.
that's got to be the starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Definitely have to have trade worthy animals.
Right.
For sure.
Okay. All right. So we're coming up on this almost 2 hours. I was
Really,
gonna
that
ask
long?
you. Yeah, it's almost 2 hours.
Wow,
Frank just
Great
said go
conversation.
24.
Yeah.
wow.
So I was gonna ask. So, what are some of your goals for 2025?
To do better. To refine. It goes back to what Anthony said. What animals bringing in, what having. I That's not going to help what I want to do. I want to do better. I want to, the banded geckos just drives me nuts. I had variegatus and brevis last year. I had 4 groups of brevis and 4 groups of variegatus, and I probably had less than 10 animals that I could market for both of those groups. And that has to be better. There has to be better. So hopefully the whole brumation thing will fix that. I want to figure out ways that I can spend less time doing the same thing. I want to be more productive. If that means, I grew up in lean manufacturing organizations. So it's kind of funny. I really feel that there's a lot of things that you could do in your business world and mentality and bring it into your hobby as well. So lean means getting rid of all the waste, wasted movements and wasted. So I want to kind of use this year to get rid of a lot of that stuff to utilize my time better. So I can get, if I'm spending 8 hours downstairs, maybe I can spend 6 and I can spend 2 hours doing more social media or improving my flipping, picture taking ability, something to move myself forward in more of the business area. But that means going downstairs and fixing things that I could do better downstairs.
Get on it.
Yep.
I've got my worksheets with my lists.
There you go. All right. So I know I've always asked you my closeout question, but this time I'm going to ask you a different question, just because who the hell wants to hear me ask the same question every time?
The one
But
time
it's
I'm
similar.
prepared with
It's
that.
similar. It's similar, and it's something
All
I
right.
seriously value your opinion on, your input on. If you could change or improve one thing about the gecko community as a whole, what would you like to see us all collectively improve on, better, or refine?
I'm gonna answer with 2 answers, simply because that's how I am. I can't stop talking. So 2
Sure.
answers. Number 1, more tolerance. More tolerance. Just because you're doing something different than I'm doing doesn't make you right, and it doesn't make me right. It just means that we're different. So let's talk. Let's talk offline, and let's not talk on Facebook groups and rip each other apart because you're doing something different. Anthony, you said in one of your posts that you did this. Now that's against all of my beliefs and everything, but help me understand why you're doing that different, right? Let's talk it through. Help me understand why what you're doing is different. Or you come to me and say, Wally, I think you're full of S, but I want to hear your side of the story on this. Let's be more tolerant. Let's be more open-minded to different ideas, because it's going to take every person this year is going to hear something and they're going to go, that's BS. And then at the end of the year, they're going to go, I'll guarantee it, every single person in this hobby will go, Well, now that I look at it this way, maybe it does make more sense than I initially thought it made. But they're going to have to be hit over the head with a hammer and ingrained with this. Be open-minded and just be more tolerant of these different ideas. I'm going to throw the second one out there, and this applies especially to myself. And I try to be this more and more, and it's hard. It's very hard. I hear over in my bedroom, 2 rooms down, I hear my Cerdodactylus zebrancus calling.
That was mine.
Was that you? I thought that was Jay. I was wondering,
was mine.
whose gecko sounds like a bird?
Yelling too. So they're talking.
Oh, so
to
it's
each
probably
other.
her. Yeah.
I bet you they did.
And my office
Podcast
chair, if I move the right way, I can get my office chair to squeak just like them. So having said that, 2 days ago, I lost my one of my 2 females in my tank.
Oh.
So, you guys know how that feels. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's literally like, and I hate to say it like this, but you're going to know it. Everybody in this room is going to know. I walk into the bedroom. It's like, oh no. I know what's going on here from, 20 feet away. Okay. Got to tear down the tank. And sure enough, there's a female laying upside down. So the first instinct is I'm done. I don't want to work today at all. I don't want to work at all today. I suck at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do it today. So I'll do that. I'll go down and get my bowl of cereal and watch, cartoons for an hour, and I'll just decompose and just feel like the worst person in the hobby. And, I think fortunately for me, I've gotten over that point where I sulk for days and over something like this. And I do that, I do that melting, but I also then go, okay, what did I do wrong? Okay, let's do it better. So that self-forgiveness, I'd want every person that loses an animal not to go, I'm the worst person in the world. We've all flipping done the same doggone thing at some point in our keeping careers. We've all made mistakes. Oh, you left the door open. You're the worst person. No, you're not. We've all done it. So, mourn a little bit, beat yourself up a little bit, so that then you can heal, and then you can recover, and then you can work on getting better. And okay, what do I have to do? Okay, before I leave this room, I'm going to just do that double check to make sure every single door is closed, or maybe I need to mist more, or maybe I need to do this different, or maybe I need to talk to Jason and Anthony about this problem that I'm having with losing animals. Self-forgiveness, man. I hope that that's something that people can do a little bit more this year on.
Yeah, definitely. Jen asks, what kind of cartoons?
It's got to be old stuff. It's got to be the Jetsons. It has to be the Flintstones. Hanna-Barbera, the Banana Splits. No, that's not a cartoon. Banana Splits. It's got to be the old stuff.
I said I watch South Park.
I'm not a South Park fan. I've watched a few. I'm more of a Family Guy. I can.
Oh, I love Family Guy too.
Yeah.
I'm a Tom and Jerry kind of guy.
There you go.
I like that low-hanging fruit
any
comedy.
Looney Tunes, man. Looney Tunes. Oh my God. How do you beat Looney Tunes?
When is a 10-ton anvil falling on a coyote's head not funny?
Frank said He-Man. Gerard said Tom and Jerry.
Snagglepuss, just
Darkwing Duck. What?
Oh my gosh.
What about DuckTales? DuckTales.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Transformers, all the good stuff.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Before we start going down this road of cartoons, man, I love me some cartoons.
Yes.
So where can everybody find you, Wally?
All over the place. I'm on Facebook, Wally Kern. I'm on Instagram, Supreme Gecko. YouTube, obviously, Supreme Gecko. I used to do TikTok. I don't have much time to do the TikTok videos that much anymore. So, oh my gosh, Voltron. Oh my gosh. You can find me all over the place, seriously. And one thing that I take pride in is that if you ask me a question, and people I don't think people realize this, and this is the the absolute truth. I bet you I get probably 20 questions a day on some type of care, not just do you have these animals available? Are you going to be attending? But just how do I X? And I take pride in, and this is on YouTube and on Facebook and Instagram. I take pride in the fact that I get back to people as quick as I possibly can, and I never ever let it go past about a day. So, guys, if you have questions, catch me on social media, and I'll answer your questions.
When's your next Palm Street? When can everybody hop on your next Palm Street?
I don't know. The after show one works so well. We might wait until the next reptile show, and I think that's in April, early April. I think it's Fond du Lac, here in Wisconsin. So maybe it might be early April. Pie and Betty Boop.
So, guys, if you're in the area, go check Wally out at the show, man, and definitely check out his Palm Street, man. Some great deals, great animals. You won't regret spending some time watching Wally in the net on screen. It's
right.
Always good, clean humor, if you will. It's always a pleasure to watch.
Yeah. So, Wally,
we try to keep it clean.
Pleasure to have you come
on,
of
course, absolutely.
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure and our honor and our joy to be able to deliver whatever entertainment and especially education that we can.
It's always fun. You guys are a good team. You guys really are. You make a good team.
But it's like the 90s Bulls. Any team that has Michael Jordan or Nanette on it is going to be a good team. I mean,
yeah, she's a good woman for sure.
She is.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're gonna be out of here. Everybody have a great night, morning,
have a great week.
Whenever you guys listen to this, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Say, hey, have y'all checked this out? Check out the Gecko Exchange podcast.
And unless you're in Arizona, don't forget to change your clocks.
We don't change nothing around here. All right, everybody have a great night. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
All right, cool. Thank you, and